Folks, the purpose of this video is to share some proof of concept with you. So basically, as a highlight, like a life of AsyncAPI or any other spec maintainer, it's hard because it's hard to track how many people use the spec. It's not as easy as with tools where you can check the downloads and other information. With spec, there's nobody downloading, or actually, are people doing it? Maybe they are. So let's see what I want to share. So what you can see now on the screen is AsyncAPI document 2.2, 2.6, whatever. I can modify it, and you can see some information here now, JSON schema. Like, I think that majority of people, but maybe you're just not aware and you're not part of the majority, so I definitely advise you that you should use on VS Studio, on VS Code, you should use a plugin called YAML. So whenever you edit YAMLs, please install the Red Hat plugin YAML that was already downloaded 13 million times. Please do it, because thanks to it, you get a lot of nice features that help you out to edit the YAML. And now why I'm talking about YAML? Yeah, because AsyncAPI, of course, can be edited as JSON, but who really does it? Are you? You should try YAML. But yeah, anyway, majority, at least that's my assumption, maybe probably wrong. But yeah, majority, I guess, use YAML. So what happens is that one thing that YAML extension does is it integrates with something called Schema Store. Schema Store is a super nice community driven project that basically exposes an API of multiple different that enables you to access multiple different schemas of different tools. And how it basically works is that in Schema Store, I open a pull request and I provide them the information about where is my schema located and what files should be interpreted as files that need this particular JSON schema. So we have this file matching pattern. So basically, once I just edit this and do AsyncAPI, you can see that now, actually no, we don't. Yeah, that's what I noticed. We don't have this pattern yet here. We need to improve. Yeah, the power of POC. Yeah, and once I match with my file a given pattern, you can see that the plugin fetched a JSON schema for me. It recognizes that my file is AsyncAPI document, which is super nifty. It provides a lot of nice stuff like auto suggestion or description, pop-up of descriptions from JSON schema. Super cool stuff. Now, we are thinking like how we can learn that people actually do it. And they don't do it only in VS Code, they do it also in IntelliJ and other IDEs. At least that's what Schema Store for now claims on their website. Now, so what we're trying to achieve, what we're experimenting with, is that we have this spec JSON schemas repo where we keep JSON schemas for all the versions of AsyncAPI spec, and they are on GitHub, but we do not say Schema Store that they're on GitHub. We don't provide to YAML and other plugins information that the schema is on GitHub directly. We point to AsyncAPI.com because we store AsyncAPI website on Netlify, so we have access to many nifty features, like for example edge functions. So we are able to collect these requests that somebody tries to access AsyncAPI schemas, and the edge function that is running whenever such a request incomings to Netlify, we have a custom code that of course redirects to GitHub, so the fetch can work and the schema can be fetched from GitHub. But we also send a message to New Relic where we track the information that like a new download took place. And that's what we're able for now to do. At least, last month that's more stable information. So we can say that we noticed 18,000 downloads per month of AsyncAPI JSON schema specification. Now, what it means, we don't know yet. Yeah, I mean, it requires a lot of investigation and digging in. That's why we're not yet pushing it public. Because if we know that schema store, so this is used by different IDEs, we need to understand what IDEs and how they use schema store. So for example, in case of YAML extension for VS Code, what we already managed to investigate, yet to confirm, but it looks like whenever I, let's say, I did what I did, right? So I renamed and the schema was provided. But I had it working already for, for this document. See, it recognizes this, that there's another, that their schema is well needed, that's an AsyncAPI document. So how this plugin works is that it's not every time I need to have access to schema, it's not fetching it every single time. It's just fetching it once, cache it, and then based on ETAG, it validates if it's if it needs to be re-downloaded or not. That's how we know how it works. So we could say 18,000 downloads of new users a month. But we're struggling a bit. We need to investigate more the edge function, because we're not yet sure how ETAG works there. At least I don't remember the last idea how it works. Might be that actually every single time the new schema is fetched. I'm not sure if I'm explaining myself. I don't even think I'm explaining myself well. So basically, we don't know what happens really when we do redirect, what happens with ETAG information here. So if it's if ETAG is refreshed somehow on Netlify whenever we rebuild the website, or actually ETAG from GitHub is taking into account, we need to clarify that. Now, then we also have to clarify IntelliJ and others. Once we have clear information how they work, we can say clearly what this number is, or we can just say 18,000 and then have a correct information, like looking on VS Code, that's the number of new users. But IntelliJ fetch every time, although I'm pretty sure every single plugin knows that caching exists. So I think everyone should really cache, but yeah. If it's cached, then it means we have 18,000 new people using AsyncAPI every month. But also stats over month will show, because like if we're gonna have 18,000 and slowly growing every month, then I don't think it's new users, because I don't think you can have such a regular growth of new users. It probably depends, because it really depends on how people work with AsyncAPI. But yeah, it's a lot, as you can see, a lot of assumptions, a lot of unknowns, a lot of questions to answer. So for now, we just have a number, which sounds good. Because you might like to have a number which is 800,000 or something like this. But you need to understand how people work with specs. They usually use it in the project, maybe first 2 weeks of a sprint when they integrate it with their product, and then once it's stable, they don't edit it quite often. So yeah, I still think 18,000 is a pretty good number, although I'm not yet 100% sure what that means. So that's it. That's what we're doing, exploring. We don't, we have so many unknowns, even with the historical data, like how we can store it with New Relic, how we can expose it to the community, if we should even keep it on New Relic, maybe we should export it somewhere in a different form. So it's really proof of concept, and would be nice to hear from you, especially if you're if you're familiar with Schema Store, if you're familiar with all these different plugins for YAML from other IDEs, any input would be amazing. And of course, there are many disadvantages of these stats. Like we're able to track only people that use AsyncAPI and name their AsyncAPI files with AsyncAPI. So that's something we need to fix on education level to make sure that whenever in every single repo, whenever we have AsyncAPI documents, we should promote having AsyncAPI text in the name of the file. So yeah, it's not an easy 1 day, 1 week task, month of work, but yeah, let's see what you think. Cheers, folks.